Man, you would not believe the downpour I got caught in yesterday.
Oh, no.
Walking to get coffee.
Really?
Like out of nowhere.
Wow.
One of those flash floods, like only in Manhattan.
I know exactly what you mean.
Yeah.
Last week, I'm coming out of the subway, shoes soaked, rest of the day.
It's New York. What can you do?
It's holy.
But it got me thinking about how we deal with all that water.
Right. It's a lot.
It's a ton. So many cities struggling with this, right?
Absolutely, all over the world. That's actually why we're talking about this really cool design concept today. Cities that are built like sponges.
Sponge cities.
Yeah.
Wait, like literally?
Mm.
With actual sponges?
No, not exactly, but kind of a similar idea.
Okay.
So instead of all that water just rushing off the pavement and overwhelm, the drainage systems,
Right.
sponge cities are designed to kind of soak up all that water, store it, and then even reuse it later.
That's pretty smart.
Yeah, they basically combine natural elements like green spaces with engineered systems.
So it's about working with nature instead of...
Excitement.
Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah.
So no giant sponges in the streets, but what does make a city a sponge city?
Well, one of the key things is they use these permeable surfaces.
Permeable surfaces.
Yeah, so think like sidewalks, roads, even parking lots.
Okay.
But they're made with materials that let water seep through them.
So instead of having like those little rivers running down the street after a storm,
Yeah.
it actually goes into the ground.
Exactly. They use things like porous asphalt and permeable concrete.
Interesting.
It's like giving the ground these tiny little drinking straws.
I like that visual.
Yeah, helps replenish the groundwater and, reduces the strain on our core sewer systems.
That's really clever, but I'm thinking, wouldn't those surfaces get clogged up with like dirt and debris?
That is a great question, and that's why maintenance is really important.
Oh,
They
yeah.
need to be, regularly cleaned and sometimes even vacuumed out to keep them working properly.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
I've heard about things like green roofs and stuff. Right.
Or those part of the whole sponge city thing?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Green infrastructure is huge for this. Green roofs, urban wetlands, rain gardens, they all act like these natural sponges soaking up the rainwater and even filtering out pollutants at the same time.
And they just look nice.
They do. They really add to the, beauty of a city.
Yeah. Got to have something nice to look at in the concrete jungle, right?
Absolutely.
I'm seeing how all this helps with stormwater runoff. But what about water scarcity? Can sponge cities help with that too?
Definitely.
Right.
Rainwater harvesting is a big part of that. So they have these systems that collect rainwater from rooftops and streets.
Right.
They store it, and then they use it for things like irrigation or even flushing toilets.
Oh, so instead of just letting that water disappear down the drain,
Yeah.
you're actually capturing it and using it?
Exactly. It's all about making the city more sustainable and resilient, especially as water shortages become more common.
I'm really starting to see how all these different pieces fit together. I'm curious, though, are there any real-world examples of sponge cities in action?
Yeah, tons.
Really?
Wuhan, China is considered like a pioneer.
Oh,
They were having some serious flooding problems.
I can imagine.
So they went all in on this, like transforming their urban landscape.
Oh,
Yeah. They've incorporated green spaces, permeable pavements, and they've even constructed wetlands specifically designed to manage stormwater.
that's amazing. So did all that actually make a difference?
It did. They've seen a huge decrease in flooding and a major improvement in water quality. They actually found that the concentration of pollutants in their waterways, things like nitrogen and phosphorus, has dropped significantly.
That's great.
Yeah, it's not just about making the water safer for people. It's about helping the entire ecosystem thrive.
I love that.
Yeah, it's a real success story.
It's really inspiring. What about closer to home? I think I read something about Berlin.
Berlin is doing some great stuff, too. They're using sponge city principles to tackle heavy rainfall, but also the urban heat island effect, where cities are just significantly warmer.
Oh, yeah, the urban heat island. I've heard about that.
Yeah, it's a real problem, and their Rummelsburg project is a really cool example of how they're addressing it.
Okay, what'd they do?
They've got a combo of green roofs, permeable pavements, and rain gardens all working together to reduce stormwater runoff.
So it's like a multi-pronged approach.
Yeah, and this helps cool the city down, plus the increased vegetation provides shade and helps evaporate water, which also lowers temperatures.
That's so smart. They really thought of everything.
He did.
It seems like sponge cities are really a way to tackle multiple urban problems at once.
Yeah, it's a really holistic approach.
But I imagine it's not easy to transform a city like that overnight.
It's definitely a process.
Yeah,
And it takes a lot of collaboration. So urban planners, engineers, policymakers, the community, they all need to be on board.
it's a team effort.
Exactly. They start by studying how water flows through the city. They identify areas prone to flooding, and then they figure out the best ways to integrate all these different sponge city elements into the development plans.
So it's really about changing the way we think about city planning, right?
That's it. It's an investment in a more sustainable and resilient future for our cities, and the benefits are huge.
Like what?
Well, we're talking about reduced flooding, better water management, a cooler and more comfortable urban environment,
Yeah.
a boost to biodiversity, and ultimately a higher quality of life for everybody.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
I'm convinced sponge cities are the way to go.
I think so too.
It sounds like they really offer a new and exciting model for the future of urban living.
Absolutely. And it leaves us with a question for you.
Oh,
How could your city benefit from some of these sponge city ideas? What would it take to make your own neighborhood more water resilient?
that's something to think about.
It is.
We hope this discourse has given you some new insights into the world of sponge cities and maybe even sparked some ideas for your own community.
Yeah.
We'll be back next week with another urban exploration.
Yeah, then.
Keep those urbanist lenses sharp.